I'm not sure how to put it in polite words, but as you mentioned, you are not that special. It's very hard to create something very unique. And everyone is sending a lot of cold outreach emails, and you just cannot assume that everyone is interested in what you are offering, because most likely they are already using their own competitor. So you should aim to have as many responses from prospects as possible, and even though it's negative, it's still a response, and then you can try to convince that you are actually better than the competitors. But as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone in the prospect list is interested in your business. Then they just blast out the emails that the people that will never want to work with them, their emails are marked as spam, their domain reputation crashes, they cannot even communicate with their internally with the team, each other, they cannot reach out to their investors anymore because the emails end up in spam. So everything is super bad. So people come to me when they have a problems, and usually the problems is either with the domains, either with the servers they use, or sometimes their deliverability is fine, but when you open the emails, what they are sending, you just want to, I don't know, stab something in your eyes because it's that painful. You should add as simple or as easy to unsubscribe feature as possible, and there is no easier way how to unsubscribe by clicking one link. No one wants to reply to your emails. Please do not send me your unsolicited emails, or please unsubscribe me. I personally suggest to never use their main domain for the cold outreach activities. You can use subdomains of your main domain. You can acquire similar domain names. Similar domain names is the most common practice. The key is you warm it up by sending emails to people or email addresses that will open your accounts, reply to them, engage with them to build the reputation. When you're trustworthy enough, you can start to run cold outreach activities.
We are kicking off another Bad to Better session by Bad Ideas Fund, where we're having conversations with the best and brightest from CEE to help startup scale into US. This session's topic with Janis is email deliverability. Essentially, if you are a B2B SaaS startup, you will use email as a sales channel. You can't really do email campaigns without making sure your emails don't end up in spam. That's where Janis comes in. He has 8 years experience in email deliverability. He has helped at Decahorn make sure their emails are delivered in the States. He's also working with world's top lead gen agencies, helping make sure their customers' emails end up where they are supposed to do. So, without further ado, awesome to have you, Yanni. Tell us about yourself. Was that a fair intro?
It was quite fair intro, but just a tiny note, 11 years, not 8. But yeah, as you mentioned, I have helped many big companies as well as lead gen agencies, as well as local businesses. But today we want to focus on B2B outreach. So some of them are not that relevant anymore. But yeah, in general, as you mentioned, email deliverability is an important topic, and happy to have a chat with you about this.
Awesome. First off, should startups at all use email as a channel to get customers?
I guess, well, my personal opinion is that startups for sure have to use it because it's the most cost effective channel you can have. Of course, people tend to assume that everyone is interested in their product, but since startup is the new product, they are unknown in the market. Cold outreach world is very crowded right now. Some people could be scared of trying it out, but I highly recommend it because, as I mentioned, it's cost effective. You can reach almost any company anywhere on the world. You just have to make sure that your offer is relevant to them. You craft not very, to be honest, cringy messages, because I have seen a lot of very weird or very dumb approaches how people try to do cold outreach. But in general, you should try it. Cost effective. You can reach everyone, and yeah, the results depends on various different factors. But without trying, you will never know what are the results and what you can accomplish.
Okay, so founders would use your advice, would go out, open up their G Suite account and start sending emails left and right, cold emails to their prospects. Is that what you're recommending? And how does
I
it usually
highly
go?
recommend not to do that. Well, there are various different approaches, but I have seen.
But first off, like what do you see is like, let's paint the problem area. What do you see is a typical situation that startups end up when they do try email as a channel for sales, cold outreach? What ends up happening if you don't have the experience in email deliverability?
Okay, so what usually happens is that person builds the startup and then he decides what his ideal customer profile is. He doesn't do the research, but my personal favorite from the Legion agency is what I'm working with. There is a startup that builds a dashboard and they want to work with enterprise companies or banks, like immediately. We created this company like a month ago. We want to work with banks only that has like, I don't know, $5 billion revenue per month. Like no one will take them serious. And then they just blast out the emails that the people that will never want to work with them, their emails are marked as spam, their domain reputation crashes. They cannot even communicate with their internally with the team, each other. They cannot reach out to their investors anymore because their emails end up in spam. So everything is super bad. What they should do is do the market research. What would be the ideal customer profile they should reach out to? I personally suggest to never use their main domain for the cold outreach activities. You can use subdomains of your main domain. You can acquire similar domain names. Similar domain names is the most common practice. Then you find an email service provider like you mentioned, G Suite or Office 365, or something else that you can use to send out emails on limited scale from one email account, because it does, like, more is more doesn't work in cold outreach. Maybe it works in e-commerce world, but it doesn't work in cold outreach world. And then you, of course, when you create the mailboxes with the different domain names, then you can start to warm them up with automated tools because you want to do it on scale. But the key is you warm it up by sending emails to people or email addresses that will open your accounts, reply to them, engage with them to build the reputation. When you're trustworthy enough, you can start to run cold outreach activities. But again, you cannot send thousands emails from one account. You have to send it on low scale. Some companies can easily do the outreach like 300, 400 emails per day, and they never run into email deliverability problems. Some companies have problems after sending 50, 60 emails per day. It depends on brand awareness. It depends on market fit. It depends on various different factors. As I mentioned, ICP as well. Who are the people you're reaching out to? Basically, you have to try and fail, try to break the system, and find the threshold you can reach. Then you can start to scale this process.
Okay, we'll get into the tips in a bit. We tackled already the first misconception that you don't want to go open your mailbox and start sending one after another. What are some other common misconceptions about email deliverability you've seen out there?
Honestly, there is quite a lot of them. First thing first is, as we mentioned, you can just send out a bunch of emails from your main domain and you will be good to go. It doesn't work like that. I guess the biggest misconception would be that all email service providers have identical spam filters. For example, the largest two organizations or email service providers is G Suite or Office 365. And G Suite filters emails based on the domain reputation, but Office 365 do not track domain reputation. They track what's going on with the IP addresses. And for example, you can have a great domain reputation, but you are using very shady email service provider. You will be able to deliver emails to G Suite without problems, but everything you send to Office 365 emails will end up in spam. So if your database, for example, contains more Office 365 emails than G Suite emails, your open rates will look good, and you could assume that you don't have the deliverability problems, while in reality, your domain is trashed already, and you have like a serious email deliverability problems. That could be the one of the misconceptions. The other, I guess, misconception that appeared in after ChatGPT appeared was that I can just ask ChatGPT to write an email and I don't have to invest any time. Like ChatGPT will do the job. But to be honest, those emails look so robotic. Like everyone can understand that it's an automated ChatGPT email. Like you have to
Can you
write
ask it?
emails.
Can you ask in the prompt? Please don't try the robotic voice. Try natural.
Maybe I don't send emails personally, but I see a lot of senders. So people come to me when they have a problems. And usually the problems is either with the domains, either with the servers they use, or sometimes their deliverability is fine, but when you open the emails, what they are sending, you just want to, I don't know, stab something in your eyes because it's that painful.
So you can't delegate to ChatGPT your email copy. That's your misconception.
And
Okay.
another thing, what I've noticed also recently is that people do not like unsubscribe links. I have heard, yeah, I will not add the unsubscribe link because that's why my email will end up in spam. But in reality, that's not the case. Links can trigger spam filters, images can trigger spam filters, but it doesn't mean they will. So by default, when you start your email activities, nothing has been marked as like spam fingerprints. You just start your email activities like, I don't know, new kid in the school. No one knows anything about you, but they just know you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to go to school. And then based on how you behave, how others react on what you are doing, then the situation can change. For example, if you're sending really shitty email copy to a lot of people and people mark your email as spam, it's possible that your copy has been identified as spam. For example, something in signature or the links you use. By default, that's not the case. And why I mentioned unsubscribe links is people assume that everyone is interested in their product, but that's not the case. And you should add as simple or as easy to unsubscribe feature as possible. And there is no easier way how to unsubscribe by clicking one link. No one wants to reply to your emails. Please do not send me your unsolicited emails, or please unsubscribe me.
Right.
If you ask people to reply to your emails when they never wanted to receive it in the first place, you will just annoy him even more. He will most likely reply with something very juicy, and then he will mark your email as spam anyways. Personally, when I receive an email without unsubscribe link, I automatically mark it as spam.
Gotcha. So
In theory, there's a can spam law, and the can spam law says that you have to give people as clear and as simple unsubscribe option as possible. And in my opinion, if I have to read your 5 paragraphs of text and then at the bottom you have, please reply me if you don't want to receive an email, no, sir.
which takes me to the other misconception I think we can single out as well, which you highlighted before, that assume people are interested in your product. People assume that you are special.
Yes, like every single business, but to be honest, it's I'm not sure how to put it in polite words, but as you mentioned, you are not that special. It's very hard to create something very unique. And if you are a small company, it's very hard to get traction in the market currently we have. Uh, a quick example regarding cold outreach. 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago, I started to work as a head of IT for one of the Legion agencies in North America. If you are head of IT, you appears in database services like ZoomInfo, Apollo, and others, where people gather the information about their prospects. And then I used to receive maybe 10 cold outreach emails about cybersecurity per week, approximately. It was like 3 years ago. Now I receive maybe 10 per day, and plus like 25 different SEO offers per day, approximately. The director of the company is getting like maybe 70 or 80 different cold outreach emails per day. And we basically have some kind of internal rule that if there is no unsubscribe link, we mark it as spam. We don't pay attention to it because we try to comply with all the rules. My point is, everyone is sending a lot of cold outreach emails, and you just cannot assume that everyone is interested in what you are offering, because most likely they are already using their own competitor. Because if your tool or if your product is something that's necessary in the market, most likely there is someone that does it already. So you should aim to have as many responses from prospects as possible. And even though it's negative, it's still a response. And then you can try to convince that you are actually better than the competitors. But as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone in the prospect list is interested in your business. Otherwise, the cold email, everyone who's sending cold outreach emails would be the richest people on the world. But sadly, that's not the case.
You're saying emails should be as solid channel for startups to do sales, yet you gave just as the example that a CEO gets 70 cold emails per day. How do you cope with 70 emails per day, cold email per day? How do you stand out there?
Well, that's why you don't have to use ChatGPT. That's first thing. There is various like old school tricks that people use.
But you're saying that from the customer successes you've seen, email still works.
It works for sure. And the key actually is, you don't, if we go back to the start of this conversation, I mentioned that you should understand who is the ideal customer profile, like who is the real ICP. And if the director of the company is getting 70 cold outreach emails per day, you shouldn't aim for the director of the company or a CEO. They are the main decision makers. For sure, they approve if we buy this product or we don't buy it, but you have to find a person that is responsible for using this tool. For example, if your tool helps marketers gain better results by doing XYZ analysis, SEO is the person who approves it, but the head of marketing should be the person you reach out to, because he will use the tool. He will be your biggest supporter, or the first person who will say, hell no, we're not going to use it.
Okay, very good. How about we change gears and make it a bit more practical? Could you think of a case study, an example where you worked with a founder with a business, their email delivery was not where it should be? You came in, you worked to fix it. How did it work in practice?
Okay, so I guess if we are speaking only about startups right now, I have a good example. The name of this lady was Jennifer. It's still Jennifer, so her name is Jennifer. She's from California, and she created the startup. The name was Find Your Envy, if I remember correctly. So basically, it was something similar to LinkedIn, but for small businesses. You create your own profile, you upload pictures. Hey, I'm a hairdresser in this specific region. We have availability in those specific times. And here are all results of our previous jobs. And then you post the pictures, videos, etc. Basically, you can promote small businesses through this app. And she was doing very interesting approach of cold emailing. She had a person that created script that gathered email addresses from people Instagram accounts. So her cold outreach approach was, hey, I saw your profile on Instagram. I thought it's amazing. We are doing this and that, and I think that your business would benefit of using Find Your Envy. Okay, everything worked fine up until like few months, and then her deliverability plummeted. But the reason was very simple. She was using the main domain of the company. She created 5 different email accounts, and she sent about 500 emails from each account per day. So combined is like 2.5 thousand cold outreach emails from one domain. And initially she had like 40-50% open rate. She got 10, 20, 30 new leads per day by doing this, because she's not like targeting banks or large companies. It's basically either solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or small businesses. And what we did, we just turned off everything she was doing, because
By email deliverability tanking, what do you mean? What happened? So initially she had 40-50% open rate. What happened?
She had like 5 to 10% open rates for this, all the sequences, all the email accounts, because all the email accounts were associated to the same domain. The
Got it. So it
deliverability,
fell
when
like 10%, 10 times.
because the deliverability is based on the domain reputation, mainly on the domain reputation. If you're reaching out to, in that case, she was reaching out to businesses, but most of the businesses register Instagram accounts with their private email addresses. So it's mostly gmail.com. And that's the most popular email service provider in the States. She basically damaged the reputation of her domain. She was not able to reach out to gmail.com or G Suite users. And what we did is, first thing, we disabled all the campaigns because there was two projects at the same time. We had to recover deliverability from the main domain, and we had to create a scalable outreach system that she can continue what she was doing previously. So first thing, we acquired similar domain name. We acquired findyourNV.co. And then we acquired some other similar domain names just so we have a backup. We set them for the warm-up in the various different tools. And then to scale the outreach, and so we don't have to buy like 50 different domains, we started to create a subdomains of those domains. For example, try findyournv.co, get your findyournv.co, mail.email.use.go.join. You can be as creative as possible, because if you set up all the DNS records properly, each subdomain has its own unique deliverability, its own unique reputation, and if the deliverability goes down for one of the subdomains, it does not affect the other subdomain. So you have independent campaigns, and you can start to send a little bit higher volume. So if, and in her case, she sent 2,500 emails from one domain, but from 5 different mailboxes, but it's pretty much the same as you're sending from one email account, because the deliverability, again, is based on the domain level. So we started to send the campaigns again. We did a lot of A, B, C, D tests to make sure that the copy is not the problem. In a few weeks, we started to disable some of the versions or underperforming templates. And afterward, she was running campaigns with 40, 50, 60% open rate. She was basically back on track. Of course, the cost was a little bit higher because she was using a tool called Woodpecker, and Woodpecker charged per mailbox connected. That's also very outdated approach how these tools charge companies. Now there are plenty of tools that charge, for example, per number of emails sent. But in general, she got back on track. Results were really good. And then we had to work to recover the reputation of her main domain, because she still had to communicate with the existing client base. She still has to communicate with the partners, colleagues, and of course, investors. Investors really like to receive emails from the companies. What we did, of course, we used some automated tools, and we outsourced some email lists where actually email people and they mark your emails as not spam, because you damage the reputation if people mark your emails as spam, but you can improve with if people mark them as not. It took some weeks to actually get back the main domain reputation, because it's easier to damage it than to recover it. But she was really happy. We are still communicating, and I'm kind advisor for their other projects that they are doing. She is really interesting lady. She has millions of different ideas that my mind cannot comprehend. Like, it doesn't work for me, but she's really tech savvy person. And right now we were working on NV Send. It's basically like an alternative to MailChimp and other email service providers that's connected directly to this Find Your NV app. Basically, this business can build a newsletter based, like, you enter specific sentences or answer to specific questions in your website, and the AI will generate a newsletter about your company that's triggered to do your recipient list from the Envy send. But yeah.
Got it. What were the results? Like, how did the business top line?
To be honest, I don't know. She's still in the business.
But you managed to get, what is the optimal volume per mailbox per subdomain and total business email volume in the end, and you said 40 to 60% open rates sustainably.
Yeah, she used to send about 500 emails per day, and then we capped approximately 250 from one mailbox. That was the sweet spot because we had some mailboxes or subdomains that were damaged and deliverability were not good anymore. So we decided to cap a little bit lower than 200, but we just didn't want to replace anything. If the engine works, it works, and we don't have to touch it anymore. And of course, we set some settings in the mailboxes that all the responses are forwarded to one place. Then she can either call those people that replied, or she can communicate through the email. But yeah, the 150 was the cap of the emails.
Okay, so 150 times how many mailboxes would you see?
She had approximately 25 in the peak.
Okay, so like 3,700 emails per day.
Sounds about right. But she was, compared to other companies I have worked with, she was really small. But like ramp.com,
Okay.
ramp.com are using 1,800 mailboxes for the outreach, something like that. Daily volume
1,800. So like let's stop right there. How do you know ramp and ramp meaning the 1.4 billion funding ramp? That's what you mean.
Yes, the same ramp. Actually, I have no idea how they found me.
So basically you were working with them, helping ramp.com on email deliverability.
Yeah, I'm still working with them.
Tell us how it started.
I was well, on my LinkedIn profile, I'm head of IT at Martal Group. So this is one of the leading lead gen agencies in North America. And one day I received like a connection request from Stuart White. He's not with Ramp anymore, but I received a message. Hey, Janis, we noticed you're email deliverability expert. Are you interested to work with us? And I'm like, sure, let's have a call. And then I replied them back. I had no idea what Ramp is. I literally had no idea because I sometimes receive inquiries on Upwork or LinkedIn or just referrals from other companies, and I never say no immediately. I have a call where because I like to speak with people, I like to understand what they are doing and if it even makes sense to work with me. Because if there is nothing I can improve, I just literally tell them I cannot help you. Like you're gonna waste money working with me. And in that case, I replied them, yes, sure, let's have a call. They had to rebook the call and then they disappeared for a month. And I was like, okay, if they are not interested, they are not interested. I can move on with my life. 3 weeks later, we had he messaged me again. We had like 30-minute call where I had no idea why they even need me because they told me we are startup with 890 employees. I'm like, that's more than Pipedrive when I worked for Pipedrive. Like, how does it even work? And yeah, we had a cool chat, but again, they disappeared for like 3 weeks. And then I just received like an email with the contract. Hey, Janis, we are interested in working with you. Here is the contract. Let me know if it works for you. I'm like, okay. I actually Googled who they are, what they are doing. Like, how is that possible that startup has like 890 employees? I found out that in that year they raised like 770 million, something like that. And yeah, basically I reviewed how they are doing cold outreach in general, adjusted few things. Like for example, I asked them to add an unsubscribe feature to their emails. Otherwise, no one was able to get rid of them unless they straightforward told them to please leave me alone. I reviewed what they are doing. They gave them suggestions how they can scale. I gave them suggestions what are the tools they should use so they don't overpay, for example, for the warm-up services and things like that. And now what I'm doing is I'm reviewing what they are doing, what are the results, if the deliverability is good or not, if there is a problem with deliverability, what we should change, what we should adjust. Should we disable some campaigns? Should we turn off some emails, etc., etc.? But combined, they have approximately like 1,800-ish mailboxes they use for the cold outreach. The volume is insane. They are a company that can do pretty much whatever they want with their cold outreach, in a sense that their brand awareness is so high and the product they are offering is usable for almost every single company.
So how many emails does it add up to per day? If it's 150 emails per day times 1800 mailboxes, that's 270,000 emails sent out per day.
I'm pretty sure that the number is close to be accurate.
That's insane. And
I'm looking actually right now. I'm trying to find the numbers because I'm receiving like a daily report with in Slack with the number of emails sent, number of opens, clicks, unsubscribes, and all the other metrics.
were you able to see over the time that you worked with, were you able to see the volume scale up, the open rates improve as you were supporting them?
Well, the number of hours I work with them is quite limited. I work with them like 5 hours per week. So it's really hard for me to actually
Attribute the results.
because I'm one of like 60 people who is working with all the outbound activities. Regarding the open rates, I think the open rates are not increasing, to be honest, but it's because there is not a billion of companies they can reach out to, and they are running a lot of re-engagement campaigns because they are recycling old leads over and over again. And
Okay, so you are sort of marginally getting into a worse target market.
yes, exactly. So I'm looking emails delivered. Some days it's about 350,000 emails.
Crazy. What about the trends that you're seeing? Obviously, you need to be following what's going on and being ahead of the game. What's going on in the last years, and what do you see is going to be the big news on email as a channel for the next couple of years?
Trend that I see a lot is that people are abandoning Google or Office 365 for the cold outreach because Google is doing everything they can to protect their mail infrastructure. And the anti-spam filters are tighter and their internal policies are even more annoying than they used to be. For example, they can temporarily suspend your mailboxes because of the spam complaints. They make it harder for you to synchronize the mailboxes with outreach tools because usually you were able to, for example, enable less secure apps and you can connect the mailbox with your email account and password. But now they are disabling this feature at all. So it means you have to use two-factor authentication and app password. But if you have 500 mailboxes, you don't want to have like either 500 different phone numbers or even trying to work with 500 mailboxes that has multi-factor authentication. In recent months, a lot of mailbox providers appeared on the market. Like we know Salesforce has MailForge, where you can buy the domains and create the mailboxes to set it up.
So plug here, Salesforce is one of the seeing very exciting traction, new sales enablement platform that is out. And plug here, Bad Ideas Fund has invested in a team.
Yeah, friends gotta love this, but I'm working with Mission Inbox, and they kind of had a beef on LinkedIn. That was a little bit funny to read. But Mission Inbox is another provider. There's MailReef. I actually want to name as many tools as possible, so it doesn't sound like I'm promoting something. I want to be neutral in this case. People have to decide by themselves what they are using. But MailReef is working with a lot of agencies. Mission Inbox, I know the founder, they helped me a lot with their mailbox setups, and they are actually one of the rare mailbox providers that allow us creation of using subdomains. If I understand correctly, I haven't used MailForge by myself, but you have to buy the domains to create the mailboxes. Like, let's say you want 50 mailboxes, you have to buy 50 domains. With MailReef, that's the same. And there are other tools that I have tried, but I don't remember them, to be honest, because I'm using a lot of tools on daily basis. But Mission Inbox allow you to use subdomains. So you can buy, for example, 5 different domains and create 10 subdomains from each, so you can save some money. Mission Inbox also allows you to bring your own SMTP provider. Usually we use either SendGrid or Mailgun support such activities, you buy the dedicated IP addresses. You have a warm-up process for like 2, 3, 4 weeks before you start sending emails from those IP addresses. The trickiest part is actually to get into the SMTP provider, because no one supports cold emails. Like no one. It's against Google internal policies and terms and conditions. It's against Office 365 terms and conditions. It's against Mailgun terms and conditions. It's against SendGrid terms and conditions. Even though you buy the dedicated IP addresses, they can still block you or suspend you because of the spam complaints. But if you get into the SendGrid system, for example, then you can do whatever you want. You can connect Mailgun. I think you allow you to connect 2,000 domains to one Mailgun account. I have worked with companies that use 3 Mailgun accounts at the same time and connected like bunch of stuff into the accounts. But in general, just companies are trying to avoid using Google or Office 365 mailboxes.
So you basically two kinds of trends. One is Gmail or Google and Microsoft are making it harder for cold outreach to reach their inboxes. That's one trend, right?
Yes, and the other trend is that it's harder to send from those
and it's
emails.
harder to send from. So if you are a startup founder trying to set up cold outreach, you probably want to avoid Google as a means to do that.
Especially if you want to scale.
Especially
The scale is the key, because if you want to run like a very niche or very targeted campaigns where you send like 50 emails per day, sure, go ahead with Google.
Yeah.
It's very easy to set up. It's very reliable, trustworthy service. But the moment you want to scale, you will run in so many pain points that you just don't want to use Google anymore.
Got it. Any other trends?
Besides usage of ChatGPT.
So how is that affecting the industry?
I personally believe that companies who don't use ChatGPT is getting better results, because like people in business or like decision makers in company is not stupid. They are not stupid. Like they can read, they can see, and if the email looks very human-ish, you have a higher chance to get the responses. Of course, ChatGPT is very useful tool if you know how to use it. But if you use it like in a beginner level, craft me, I know, email that do XYZ, it's not gonna work.
How do you and there's obviously some folks who are pro users with ChatGPT and AI. Do you see them successfully scaling this up? And what does it mean for inboxes? Are they going to be flooded with AI? Will also have email readers? Basically, our AI email senders are sending emails to our AI email readers. Is that the future?
It's possible. I haven't seen anything like that yet, but most likely it's gonna be case. But people who knows how to use AI, of course, they get really good results, because you can customize or personalize email content very interesting way. For example, you can get information about prospect from their LinkedIn, and you can say something like, hey, congratulations on your recent post on Instagram where you spoke about certain topic, and then you kind of it does look like you actually read the post.
Yeah.
But of course you did not.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very interesting way how you can personalize the email to look that you did the research. Sometimes you know that it's AI because you know AI exists. Without knowing that AI exists and AI is super popular right now, you would never tell that like this person used AI. I'm not sure if it makes sense what I'm saying, but these emails look so real, like one-on-one, that you cannot believe it's one-on-one because it looks way too real. Like you can use your last LinkedIn post or your most popular LinkedIn post or blog post from your website. There is very advanced ways how to do that. So I guess the trend is everyone try to use AI, but if you're using AI poorly, you will get worse results than you would get without using AI at all.
Makes sense. Okay, let's take it to the final chapter, tips chapter of our session. Let's go through very practical tips what founders should do when they're setting up their email cold outreach campaigns, but also when they are seeing their email open rates are tanking. What do you do? All of the above.
Okay, very broad topic, but let's try. Let's try. I will try to stick to the topic. Okay, so the first tip would be, in my personal opinion, is maybe it doesn't sound good, but don't set too high expectations. Like I know sometimes I contradict myself, but it's very hard to explain everything over like a conversation where I speak a lot without like a bunch of questions what I meant by that. Don't set too high expectations in a sense that you're not gonna print unlimited number of leads for your business. So there are two ways how you can do cold outreach. It's very targeted campaigns where we call it ABM, where you spend a lot of time researching and you look for like few hundred of companies you really want to work with. You find who is the decision maker in the department that you will work with, and then you craft very specific email content to specific company. Most likely you use AI if you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, you do either manual research or at least broad research about this industry, and then you reach out to 10 to 15 people in this company trying to find the decision maker that is your cheerleader. Or the other approach is do it on scale. In a sense, it's kind of a carpet bombing. You figured out that your niche or your industry is, I don't know, you want to work with fashion stores. You just figure out that this is the industry or this is the companies you want to work with. You gather as many companies as possible. You get the email addresses from tools like ZoomInfo, Apollo, 6sense, Waterfall. There is a new tool appear on the market, clay.com. You validate those leads through list validation tools like Zero Bounce, Never Bounce, Clear Out, to make sure you don't email invalid emails, you don't email catch-all emails as well. You email only valid email contacts. Then, of course, you create the specific email content you want to send to these people. You craft multi-step sequence. In best case scenario, you use actually multi-channel approach instead of just email. You use also LinkedIn connections or LinkedIn messages, as well as you use cold outreach. Actually, regarding the trends, since I'm working with this lead gen agency, what we have seen in last few months, the most amount of leads that are generated from the sales reps for the clients is by phones. But the email is still really important because email is like a warm-up channel. So if the email deliverability is bad and the recipients don't receive the emails, you don't have your reference point. Like, hey, I'm Angela, I'm calling from company XYZ. I sent you an email a few days ago. Did you receive it? Or over the conversation, you can reference to the points you mentioned in the email. So emails are still really important, but the phones are generating the most traction because it's also harder for people to say no when you're speaking to him. Like, you can write whatever you want over the email because the people, like, you don't have to react to the reaction of the recipient, but over the phone it's very hard to say no. The first step is actually get the domains or create the subdomains, build up the mailboxes, set them up for the warm-up. You can use free tools like Instantly offers you free warm-up tools, or MailForge offers you warm-up as well. If you use Reply.io for the outbound, they offers you Mail Toaster for the warm-up. If you use other outbound tools without the warm-up, you can always use Varmi.io, or you can use mailreach.co. There is a lot of tools available on the market. Some of them have more advanced features, some of them are very basic. Of course, the price depends on also how sophisticated the tool is or what are the volumes they'll allow you to send. And after a few weeks of warm-up emails, you can start to run the campaigns. My personal suggestion is to start small at the beginning, and when you see that you gained the traction, like your message resonates with the market, you get responses. Even though those are negative responses, you still get the responses, and then you can start to scale till the system breaks. That's my approach usually, because you want to find like this silver line. What is the email volume you can send out per mailbox, for example? Because as I mentioned, some companies can send like 50 emails and they run into problems. Some can send 300 emails from email account and they never run into any problems. So yeah, then you experiment with the campaigns, and if your results are good, you can scale it up. If your results are bad, in a sense the deliverability is going down, open rates are getting lower, of course you can replicate your email setup again, create many more subdomains or get more domains for the campaigns, and then basically send the same messages or adjust the messages but with a lower pace. If you use subdomains and you run into deliverability problem, honestly, it's easier to get rid of them. There is no point spending time trying to recover it, something you created with the thought process that I can afford to lose it. So you buy those domains or you create subdomains because you can afford to lose them. That's why you never run the campaigns from your main domain, because that's the essence of your business. You cannot afford any problems with that. So if you have an email deliverability problems, of course you have to understand what is the root cause of it. If it's a domain related problem, if it's an IP related problem, if it's content related problem, you can have a situation that emails ends up in spam because something from your email signature, for example, has been identified as spam fingerprint. Most popular from what I have seen is actually phone numbers. So Martal, as a lead gen agency, we offer like fractional sales executives. So one person can represent 10 different companies, but his phone number is always the same. So if he includes his phone number in the signature for 10 different campaigns or 10 different companies, it's a fingerprint to his activities. So if one campaign generated a lot of spam complaints, and the common thing for all the campaigns is the phone number, one campaign can affect the other campaigns because of his phone number, if it makes sense. If the content is the problem, that's the easiest solution. You just write something new, change the wording, change your signature, make it look differently but sound the same if the message really generated good results. If it's IP related problem, then it's a different story, because if you use Office 365 and Google, you will never run into IP related problems. If you use external SMTPs like Mailgun or SendGrid or AWS, you can have problems. If you use shared IPs, it's outside of your control because you share them with other users. If it's a dedicated IP addresses, you can kind of pause all your email activities, use only warm-up emails to kind of get back the IP addresses on track. If it's domain-related problems, it's just easier to get rid of them, in the sense that just pause everything you're sending from those domains or subdomains, get new ones, warm them up, and restart your activities.
What are some of the tools to understand that something is wrong? Well, obviously, open rates falling is one symptom.
When you are running the cold outreach campaigns, it's really important to have the warm-up campaigns in the background. So you never disable the warm-up, actually. And usually the warm-up tools have dashboards where they display, okay, you have, I don't know, 19...
Nice. That's a really smart trick.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the thing is, so if you have a deliverability score, or like warm-up tools show you that you don't have deliverability problems, but your open rates are 10% or 5%, most likely you can be 90% sure that the problem is related to the content. The deliverability, these warm-up tools cannot give you like 100% accurate information, because it depends on how many email accounts they have in the warm-up pool, because they internally email each other, and when the email hits the spam folder, they mark it as not spam. So at some point you can reach the situation that they have emailed every single mailbox, and every single mailbox have marked your emails as not spam, So it always gives you like it always shows you how 100% deliverability, because if you
Got it.
mark email as not spam, it will end up into inbox. So, but
But
it's very rare case. It's not like 60% of the information is false. It usually happens like once in a few months, at least for me. But most advanced tools like MailReach or Varme, they also have a email deliverability test feature where they have a special list of emails, approximately 10 to 20 different emails you can choose by different providers, and you just send directly a test email to this seed list, and then it displays, for example, G Suite emails had 100% inbox placement, Office 365 had 50%, Zoho Mail had 100%. You basically run a seed test inside of the warm-up systems. If you don't use those tools and your warm-up tool do not offer such feature, you can use a tool called glocapps.com, where you basically download their seed list, send an email to this list again, and yeah, it will display if you have proper DNS configurations to your email, if your IP addresses or domain is certain blacklists, what is the inbox placement, give you tips and tricks what you can do to improve the results and things like that. But my personal favorite approach is, honestly, I'm kind of old school. I'm young, but deep in my heart, I'm kind of boomer. I trust more to my own things I do. So what I usually do is whenever I'm sending sequences or I'm helping people to send sequences, I add 5 to 6 of my own emails into the sequences as a prospect. I don't open the emails. I don't mark those emails as not spam or mark them as important. I don't interact with them because I try to keep the engagement as neutral as possible. And then I can see if you have a sequence that has 5 steps and you send 5 emails in 2 weeks, I can see that, let's say, first 2 emails were in inbox, third one was in spam, and fourth one again was into inbox. It, of course, it's related to the content, because, or if you have a open rates of, I don't know, first step is 40, second one is 15, and the third one is 30, most likely the subject line, for example, of the second email is not that interesting. So it's
okay,
because then you can actually see what your actual recipients
what is
see
a good
there.
open rate then?
Um, if you are running ABM campaigns, like very targeted campaigns, 40, 50, 60% is a good open rate. But on average, I think the industry average is about 30-ish. Well, if you are below 30% open rate, you for sure have a room for improvement. But each case is unique. Some people like to send emails to catch all emails, and it's of course decreased the open rates significantly because some of the email accounts actually doesn't exist. But if you run campaigns to only valid emails and you have spent quite a lot of time researching and you know that these people are actually real humans and this product should be interesting to them, and your subject line is not something super salesy, you can have 50, 60, 70% open rates for sure. I have seen like unrealistic open rates as of 80. I had worked with people who came to me and he told me my open rates used to be 85%, now it's 70. Help me to fix this. And I asked him, can you open your mailbox? And he was like, sure. And I asked him, how many unread emails you have in your mailbox? Well, it's like 2,700 emails. Like, here is your answer. No one reads all the emails. Like, problem solved.
And you issue invoice. Thank you.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah,
Okay.
you can have really high open rates. And regarding the expectations, you can have really high open rates, yet no engagement. And you can have mech open rates with a good engagement.
And what is that engagement? Meaning conversion rate, reply rate, or what would you?
Exactly, reply rate. Exactly, that's what I meant. Because you meant ask about tips. My biggest tip is ask questions in email, because people expect recipient to reply to the email. For example, most popular call to action I have seen in cold emails: are you interested to? No, let's have a chat. Let's have a 30-minute chat on Tuesday to discuss this.
Ouch.
Like, why? I don't even know who you are. Like, why should I jump on a call with you? Oh, hey, I'm from company XYZ. We do this and that. Let's have a 30-minute chat. Why? So my personal approach is don't talk about yourself that much. Speak about the problems you can solve for the company. And my favorite call to action is that usually generates the most responses from what I have seen is, are you in are you interested learning more how we can help your business achieve XYZ or increase your revenue by percentage? If not, let me know and I will never email you again. And then you can get either strict no, and if it's a strict no, you can still kind of try to work around the objection. Like if it's no because you have other vendor, or it's no because you're not interested right now, or it's no because you don't have budget right now. Especially if you're lead gen agency, the key is not lead gen agency generates leads, they don't sell. So your key is to have a meaningful conversation with the company you represent and the prospect. So if it's objection because we don't have a budget right now, it's still, you can still have a call like, hey, maybe you have a budget in half year, or I don't know, we are using different vendor right now, but you can still talk with this company about the product. Maybe they are better than the current vendor and you can switch in a year, for example. But this call to action, what I mentioned, usually generates either, yeah, send me one pager, for example, or no, we are not interested, leave me alone. But at least it's a response.
Yeah.
But if let's have a 30-minute call, usually generates 0.1% response rate, maybe 0.01% response rate.
So what is that response rate one should target?
I really don't like to give like specific numbers because it sounds like I made them up. Because again, each case, Raymond, is unique. Each case is unique. Some companies can have 3% response rate, which is also insane. But it's a response rate that includes negative responses as well. So usually the positive versus negative response rate is like 1 to 5, 1 positive, 5 negative.
So anywhere between 0 and 3% is a good benchmark to be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good. Where can people find you? Sounds like Ramp found you on LinkedIn. Do the same.
LinkedIn is one option. I'm not a huge fan of LinkedIn because everyone is a founder or CEO or expert of something on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is the best public channel where you can find me. You can find me on Bad Ideas Slack. You can find me on Upwork, even though I'm not using it, but I'm still there and I'm still reading the emails that I received from Upwork. So I guess LinkedIn, Bad Ideas, Upwork, and people that I have worked with.
Thanks. This was awesome.
Thanks, Raymond, for having me here.